you're looking at someone that has never been in a multifamily, and you're trying to attract them, what are some things that you would communicate?
I tell them you don't have to be crazy to work here. We'll teach you. You've got guys that come in like a farm system. You're going to start them at groundskeeper or whatever that be, and then really train them the right way. And as those people move up, the next person in line should be ready to go. And if we don't have those people ready to promote, then we're failing at doing our training and getting the right people ready. I think a lot of people are too quick to reach out and try and get an answer instead of trying to go through this thought process. So, some of the best leaders I had, they weren't going to give the answer. They're going to push back. And even if you came to them with something, they would respectfully push back to really make you think through the full process of everything. Even if you only put a 5 or 10 year stint in, get the most out of it. Learn every trade you can. Who knows where that takes you next? But I think it's a great opportunity to get him ready for the job you want before it's available. I mean, if there's certifications or training or classes that you don't have now, I would go pursue them on your own. Don't wait for someone else to put those in front of you. Or
what did you want to become when you grow up?
I'm still trying to figure that out myself currently. I think growing up, I always thought something in sports, but I think that's kind of everyone. So from there, just kept going with wherever my path took me. I didn't have a set trajectory I was going for. Originally, I thought I was going to go to college and do something in business marketing, and got into the construction trades. I always like to kind of take stuff apart as a kid and tinker with things. So I think that was just kind of the natural evolution, getting into maintenance and repairs from there.
Was there anyone in a family or anyone close to you that you just kind of look up to when it comes to doing work with your hands? How did you go that route?
All my family is pretty much on, my dad's side, blue collar. They're in the flooring industry, hardwood, things like that. So that was kind of always around. And I think I just had the natural, curiosity of, wanting to know how things work. If it's broken, I'm going to take it apart. I can't make it any more broke. And then from there, just, see if I can fix it or not, and then go on from there.
How did you end up in multifamily?
That was actually, I guess, in a sense, almost by accident. I was in the construction industry and got to the point where it was a lot of abuse on your body, and started figuring I better look at a path that's going to use more of my mind instead of my body. Had an opportunity to start off as a maintenance supervisor after years of the construction trades, working with Forest City, doing military housing. Came in there as a site supervisor and worked my way up to being a regional supervisor for their military portfolio.
Hey everyone, if you're wondering who the guest is today, is Jake Nathan. Jake is Director of Maintenance with NHE. Welcome to the show, Jake.
Thank you.
I want to thank our sponsors from Kairos and Appwork for making this broadcast possible. And with this being said, back to our conversation, Jake. Which company was the first company that you worked for, and what was your role in multifamily?
That would have been Forest City. So my role there was a maintenance supervisor with their military housing division. I started off at the Great Lakes base there. We had about 1,500 single family homes across 3 different cities. And then a year and a half in, promoted into a regional, and then, kind of oversaw their entire military portfolio from a regional level, supporting all the different teams.
So you never been like a technician or a make ready or a groundskeeper in a multifamily?
No, I kind of did all that through my construction background. I started off as a laborer there, worked up to be like a carpenter's assistant and apprentice, and worked up. And by the time I switched over to the multifamily, I was lucky enough to kind of get that opportunity to come at a supervisor level. Um, I think it was kind of a lot of luck and timing, the right time, right place to get in there.
I'm very curious, coming from outside multifamily and started as a supervisor, a maintenance supervisor in multifamily. What were the challenges that you had? What were the things you didn't know coming in? You wish you knew.
I mean, a lot of it didn't know the make ready process. I mean, that was probably one of the biggest things. From the construction side, yeah, you've got your schedules and things when you're doing renovations and construction projects, but you're usually tackling 1 or 2 projects at a time, whereas you're dealing with possibly 20 or 30 make readies at one time that need to be scheduled and coordinated. A lot on the construction side, you're only responsible for yourself. Whatever you did or didn't do for the day was on you. where now you've got a team that you're responsible for to make sure that they're being productive and efficient and providing the best service for all the residents.
How big of a learning curve was that?
I think it took a couple months. I mean, I was lucky. I worked with some good people, at the executive level, and I had another supervisor that I partnered up with there that, definitely helped me along the way. So I think I got lucky to have a great team to start off.
You said that you only took you a little bit over a year to move into a regional role.
Yeah, it was about a year and a half.
What is that you think you had to move up so quickly?
I think a lot of it was the great support I had. I mean, I got lucky. I had, the two VPs I reported to. One was Mike Eddy, the other one was Jen Bauer. I think they provided a lot of, training, but also the ability to kind of learn on your own. They point you in the right direction and, kind of let you learn and make mistakes, but treat it as a learning opportunity, not as, a bad thing. And a lot of it is, I feel like I've always had a little bit of a chip on my shoulder that, I didn't go to college. I didn't have that education. So I've always kind of feeling that I've got to do a little bit better or work a little bit harder than the next guy. So it was just that internal drive to keep pushing.
Shout out to Jen Bauer. She used to be my boss. She hired me at Alpharberry Communities as a regional maintenance director after a 7-year gap. I
Yeah,
used to
it's a
be,
small world.
how small of a world that is. Jen, if you're watching this, hello. These are two of your boys from back in the day. Amazing. This is amazing. We had Jen on a podcast too. I'm definitely gonna send this to her. I had no idea that you actually work with Jen.
Yeah,
Such
for
an
almost 5 years.
such an amazing me not so long. It was an amazing experience having her as a boss. She definitely hired me at Balfour Beatty in 2017, and we worked together for a couple of years. For those that are looking up for someone like you, Jake, and they want to become Jake one day, what are the pieces of advice, the most important pieces of advice that you have for them that you would share here?
I think a lot of it's going to be getting ready for the job you want before it's available. I mean, if there's certifications or training or classes that you don't have now, I would go pursue them on your own. Don't wait for someone else to put those in front of you or to try and push you towards that. And once that opportunity is open, it's too late to prepare for it. Like you got to be ready before. So obviously EPA is big in our industry, CPO is big in our industry. Your CAMT. So like any of that stuff that you can do that you want to get along that way, do it. If your company that you're at currently offers a reimbursement for classes like that, great. Take advantage of it, but be willing to put in the work. There's a lot of guys now that 3 months in they want to move to the next level. Not saying that people aren't ready, they're not there, but be willing to put the time in, be patient. Sometimes it's going to take a little longer than you want it to be, and it's hard. I think we're kind of in a time where there's that instant gratification. Like, someone takes a course and, all right, well, I want to move up to the next thing. And it's like, that's great. You've got that basic knowledge, but now get that hands on and the practical experience with it first. Make sure you're comfortable, make sure you've got that background and find people that know more than you. It's not, there's nothing wrong with learning from people that know more. I mean, there's people that I still reach out to that, hey, I don't know everything. There's people that are a lot smarter in certain categories, and I've got no hesitation to reach out and contact them.
How large of a portfolio are you overseeing now, Jake?
Currently, it's about 12,000.
12,000. How about the footprint?
It's in the Carolinas, and then just kind of touching into Georgia now,
What part of Georgia?
Savannah.
Savannah. Okay, so Georgia. I used to have properties out there back in my day, more than more than one time. But the first I remember, the first time was with Greystar. Second time was with ECI Group. Trading. How do you see the ideal training for maintenance looking like in 2024, Jake?
I think there's a lot of stuff that can kind of be taught online as a precursor, but I think ultimately a lot of that, the most beneficial to me is going to be the hands-on, where the guys get to put that stuff that they learned online into practice. Show them, here's this piece of equipment. Now that you've walked through online what that should do, let's see what it actually looks like in person and show them like what can go wrong and how to avoid that. Or sometimes there's multiple things that could be wrong. So really, I think the hands-on is where a lot of guys are going to learn more than just your typical online course.
How do we change the narrative? You told me the story that you basically got into multifamily, I'll say accidentally. It wasn't like, this is a great industry. I heard that, it's awesome to be in multifamily. I just want to be a part of multifamily. Believe it or not, probably over 99% of, the people that I told to have the same story. And most of them, like probably over 90% of all the guests that I have on the show, I ask this question, and the answer is always the same. So, how do we turn the tables? How do we make the industry something that actually people desire to join? Like not by accident, by they actually know they actually wanted to join because it's a great place. They heard that there's an industry first of all, and then it might be a really cool one to be a part of. How do we change the narrative here?
I think there just needs to be more focus around the different career opportunities that there are. I think a lot of people, maybe from the outside looking in, see that there's just a position open or maybe a maintenance supervisor, and they don't realize that within those there's growth, but then also to move above those, there's a lot of great advancements and opportunities out there. So I don't know that there's a lot of great advertising around some of those other roles. I think it's strictly the site levels. So I think really showing what kind of a career path there could be for someone that comes in and excels at what they do.
Do you think that a content creation, like, videos, conversations, written content would be helpful to reach to more people?
Yeah, I think so. I think getting it out in front of them. I think a lot of people like myself, I didn't know what there was until I got into it. It wasn't an industry that I ever knew about or pursued. Now that I'm in it, I can't see myself out of it. So I think just really having more information out there for people to see. I mean, I think across the industry, skilled trades, there's a big deficit of manpower. So I think there's probably always been a stigma to, oh, that's just a trade, not realizing like it's a great opportunity not only for growth but financially. I mean, there it pays well in a lot of these industries that you work your way up. So I think that's probably something that doesn't get put out there much as well. The opportunity for financial benefit.
You mentioned the shortages. We have obviously, boomers are not around anymore in our industry, doing hands-on work. Maybe a few, maybe a very few here and there, but now the Gen X's are, on their way out too. They're pushing 50, years old, some towards 60, and that's about, as far as they could go. It's a very demanding, physically demanding job. We're losing legacy knowledge. All the people that learned 20, 30 years ago how to properly fix things are just kind of exiting, and there's not much coming in. How do we fix this, skill gap, the the legacy knowledge? How do we replenish it?
Yeah, I mean, I think the best way is to almost kind of build a bench, just like in sport. You've got guys that come in like a farm system. You're gonna start them at groundskeeper or whatever that be, and then really train them the right way and give them that career path. And that's where that knowledge is gonna get passed along. The supervisors that are there are gonna kind of train their replacements. And as those people move up, the next person in line should be ready to go. And if we don't have those people ready to promote, then we're failing at doing our training and getting the right people ready. I think that's where it's really going to start and come from is training from the bottom up.
I love your analogy with sports teams. When was the last time that you saw a newspaper ad that says the Carolina Panthers are looking for a quarterback? Do you remember?
Every day. Well, I'm a Chicago Bears fan though, so they need some too. So make sure we put an ad out for them as well.
Yeah. How often do they advertise the quarterback position in newspaper or on
Yeah,
Indeed?
yeah,
They,
they don't.
they
So
don't, and that's for a good reason because they have a backup of a backup. They have a bench team, second team, third team, fourth team, and so on and so forth. So they never run out of talent. They're always ready. I think military is a great example too, right? You always have people next in line, the chain of command to like take over and run. Run the show when the top person is not there. They're injured or God forbid, they're dying. So I love the analogy, and I agree with that. I agree that also people tend to forget that hiring shouldn't be an event. It's an ongoing situation, right? You should always be hiring. If you're not always hiring for all the positions in your company, you're doing something wrong. You're missing out on that. Do you agree?
I agree. I like to try and always promote within. I think if you're within an organization and your hires are constantly external, I think it's time to kind of reflect and kind of see where you're failing. I mean, if we can't have those promotions from internal, then it's time to reevaluate our training process and things along that line to figure out where we can fix that.
JQ, you mentioned earlier the drive as part of the the qualities or the things that got you where you are today. What gives you the drive? What drives you?
I mean, part of it's competitiveness. Some of it's part of the way I was raised. I don't like things to beat me. Like if there's a problem I can't figure out, it's going to keep me awake at night. And I've had situations where I'll be working with a technician or supervisor, even if it's over phone, trying to help them, work through a problem. And if we're not able to resolve it by the time we get off that call, every time I'll tell them, call me when you guys figure out what's going on with this because I need to know. Because one, I want to know what it was, and two, now I know the next time that problem comes up, how to help someone else with it. So it's just that I think just the natural drive to want to know, want to exceed, and I was lucky to get raised by great parents that pushed me. So
And now a word from Dean Fungawing, founder and CEO, Kairos.
There's so many maintenance issues that can be solved with simple data that tells you, hey, this is not working right. Go take care of it. Our core technology, it started with leak detection, right? And again, knowing about the issue sooner rather than later, right? And the difference between our sensor and most sensors that you can find on Amazon or anywhere else is those are consumer grade sensors. And when you're dealing with multifamily buildings, you're dealing with commercial buildings, you're dealing with an environment that's a little bit more intensive than a home. 250 homes in a community as opposed to one home. You've got a lot more redundancy of risk. And so this technology notifies you in any place that you need to know that there's water. The moment that there's water in that area, anywhere behind the dishwasher, in the front of the dishwasher, the water heater pan, the HVAC closet, the washing machine, laundry room applications, hydronic pumps. We've seen all kinds of areas, PTAC units in places like New York. We created a specialized sensor just for PTAC units because, again, we print this material, this conductive material, and that conductive material is attached to this little module, and that module sends out a signal. It's operating on a 10-year battery. It has the ability to transmit a signal through 5 to 10 floors of concrete in a commercial building. That means that you have to have 35 times fewer base stations to collect all that data. You've got this broad covers. Now you've got visibility across your site of the real-time risk, and coming very soon is severity context so that your maintenance guys aren't seeing a bunch of signal noise and they're ignoring things, right? Those are newer sensors that we're coming up with. And really what we've seen from customers is that they're avoiding insurance claims.
If you were to think of two people that had the most positive influence in your career and in your life, who are those people?
I mean, if I want to say personally and professionally, personally, I would definitely say my parents. Professionally, I would say there's probably three individuals. I would say obviously Jen Bauer with the work that I was lucky to do with her, and then Mike Eddy, who I also worked with at the same time as Jen, and then probably another one that we have in common is Renee Gomez
Rene Gomez. What did you work with Rene, by the way?
at Cortland.
Yeah, so we have that in common too.
Yeah.
That's what I remember. Maybe we worked at the same time, around the same time.
Uh, I think you were gone when I started. You left like right near about the time I was starting there.
I was there
But
2013 to 2017.
I started in 17.
Yeah, probably after I left. Yeah, I left in June 2017.
Yeah, so
Actually,
he.
I left to go to work for Jen. Yeah, uh, definitely know Rene myself. Have a lot of respect for the man. So shout out to Rene if you're watching this podcast. Definitely, your name is being mentioned here. Thinking about the future now, how do you envision the future of our industry? And right here, I'm just gonna leave it like completely open to you when it comes to training, technology, whatever you wanna say. And if you don't want to limit yourself to like maintenance and facilities, please feel free to take it out there too, and just mention other things. But how do you envision our the future of our industry?
I definitely think there needs to be more emphasis on training across the board to really bring in the skill sets. I think right now a lot of it is get the minimum to get by, even if it's having people that are specialized in certain areas. I think there's going to be a lot of room for new technology, whether it be applications, AI, things along that place, and really starting to digitize stuff, get away from the old ways of anything on paper, and really just become more efficient. I think there's a lot of room with new technology, whether it be in the HVAC industry or inspection platforms, to really take things to the next level and not only provide a better level of service to the residents, but also to help the associates excel in what they do, because a lot of these things are going to help train them as they work. And instead of just being a tool, it's going to be a resource and a tool for them.
Any particular thoughts currently on the surge of AI?
Uh, I mean, there's a lot that you can use AI for. I mean, even like ChatGPT, if you want to utilize that, you can use that for creating some training, some documents, things like that. I think it speeds up the process. It can kind of search across a bunch of different platforms for you as you're trying to create stuff to pull in more information. It just saves you a lot of time. I think some of the applications for HVAC work out there, I mean, one that I particularly enjoy is Measure Quick. That's a great tool for some of these guys to not only be more efficient, but learn a lot from it as well. There's a lot of training that is in that application for these guys.
And now a word from Sean Landsberg, co-founder, Appwork.
What are some things that differentiate Upwork from all the other maintenance workflow apps that are out there available?
For us, it was about creating a solution that solved their own problems. And in order to get to that end goal, we had to first create a maintenance management software, which is the foundation of our product and it's the basic of our product. But our product is so much more than that. Our product was built again, like I said before, about solving our problems. That includes, the data behind the technicians, right? All the data behind all the entire maintenance process and how we display that data, how we capture that data, the data integrity component behind that, right? How we make sure that that data cannot be influenced by anybody within the organization. We also have the gamification component, right? How we take maintenance and turn that into a game, make it more motivating, more exciting, more engaging, which helps improve your maintenance efficiency, right? We're seeing technicians being able to complete more work orders in a day than they were able to before. They're more motivated than they were before. Their customer service is better, which obviously impacts resident retention and so much more.
When you think about we as a society talk a lot about like success stories and everything, I want to talk a little bit about failures. When you think of a failure, something, a major failure that you had, and that how that turned out to be, maybe a success for you later on, you learn from it and you flip into a success. What's that story?
I mean, I think not going to college and finishing up some of the stuff there, I think there's a lot I could have learned and maybe expedited my career path. But, I went the longer route, but at the same time, I think it taught me a lot more. I think that helped the drive because of being at that labor position and being out in the weather and, dealing with some of that stuff. It gave you the drive to want to get out of that and to exceed to the next level. So, yeah, I would have loved to have that college education. Who knows where it could have gone, but I don't regret the path I went because it brought me a lot.
Centralization is a word that's taking over conversations in our industry. I travel a lot throughout the country, conferences, and all sorts of industry meetings, and centralization comes up every single time. So I want to get your thoughts on centralization for a few minutes, Jake.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely a great tool if you have the resources for it. I think you have to have a decent cluster of properties, density, to be able to, have the team there to service all the different, needs. I think if you've got two or three properties, it's going to be a little bit harder. If you've got like 10 or 15 in a cluster, you've got more resources to lean on. I definitely see that as a way that a lot of companies are starting to lean or try to pursue and see if it's right for them. Where I'm at currently, not something that we've discussed, but I think in a sense we're kind of leaning with some form of centralization, just not a true all out centralized platform.
Could you spend a little bit more on this, like describe how do you envision that being within your organization? How would that look like?
I mean, for me, we're a little bit more spread out, so it'd be harder. I think the resources would be spread too thin. I think there would be a lot of lost efficiency just in travel times. So, as the density of properties starts to gather, I think there'll be more of a pursuit to kind of look at that in some markets.
As far as leadership, what are the best lessons that you learn along the way as being a leader, while being a leader? It's not just the lessons that we teach, but I think it's the lessons that we learn as a leader, as being a leader. I'm sure that you learn a lot. We all do every day. But what are kind of like the lessons that really influenced you as a leader?
I think, not trying to give everyone the answers. I think pushing people to think for themselves and problem solve. I think a lot of people are too quick to reach out and try and get an answer instead of trying to go through this thought process. So, some of the best leaders I had, they weren't going to give the answer. They're going to push back. And even if you came to them with something, they would respectfully push back to really make you think through the full process of everything. If you're going to come to them with something, if they're going to shoot holes in your idea, that's fine. That just means you have to go back and try and plug those holes before you come back with it. And it wasn't a bad thing. It definitely helped you with your critical thinking and problem solving. So I think that's one of the best things you can really work with your teams on is, getting them to really pursue that critical thinking and the problem solving on their own. And then, also just building the teamwork relationship, that goes a long way too.
When you first became a regional, I'm sure that you had a vision. What would that look like? What were the things that you thought that they weren't so once you actually got the job?
I think, you definitely thought it was going to be a lot easier than what it was going to be. I think that's the kind of perception from everyone that you hear is a lot of people are always like, oh, I can't wait to move up to the next job where it gets easier. It's like, no, it gets harder and harder, and more hours required. So if you want that, be ready for it. It's definitely rewarding and it's fun, but I think that initial jump was definitely a lot more than I was expecting, but I enjoyed it.
If this conversation was to be an ad for multifamily, and you were the person that actually is acting in an ad, what would you say to someone that you're looking at someone that has never been in a multifamily and you're trying to attract them? What are some things that you would communicate in that particular ad to convince them that, hey, this is a great industry and maybe you should consider joining us?
I tell them you don't have to be crazy to work here. We'll teach you. I mean, I think I would just tell them like, hey, it's like anything else. You can have fun doing with it. I mean, just because there's work to get done every day doesn't mean you can't have fun doing it. It's a lot of hard work, but it's rewarding. And there's a lot of opportunities for career growth. You can be very financially and career successful if you want to put in the time and learn. There's a lot of opportunities to learn additional skills and trades along the way. And even if you don't stay in the industry, like those skills are going to go with you for the rest of your life. So even if you only put a 5 or 10 year stint in, get the most out of it. Learn every trade you can. Who knows where that takes you next? But I think it's a great opportunity to really cross over so many skills and so many trades that are out there where maybe so many other jobs are really more single trade focused.
You mentioned the crazy earlier. What is the craziest story that you would share with us from multifamily? Your craziest experience that you had?
I don't know if those can be shared on here.
We okay. One that could that's not rated R, right? Just one
Ah,
that you could share.
they all blend together now. I would have to just say some of the condition of some of the homes that you get back. It's mind boggling now that you almost wonder like how it even got to that point. And I think it's to the point now. Like I've told friends and people some of the stories, and they'll just be like, "What the heck?" I'm like, "Oh, that's nothing. Like, there's like 10 times worse." And I think everyone that's in the multifamily has those stories where you start talking, and then it just kind of brings up other ones. But yeah, I think if you're in this industry long enough, everyone's got those, and I think at some point someone needs to get together and put a book of the stories together because most people probably wouldn't believe it.
We talked about the legacy knowledge shortage, right? That's leaving the industry. How about the personnel shortage, generally speaking? How can we as an industry bring more bodies that we could train, that we could, mentor, that we could show the path. Because, like that's the number one problem, is that, this gap widens. Like we're not finding issues, this becomes larger and larger. There's more and more multifamily being built, and there's more and more availability, right? There's more and more open positions. So what are some things that you think we could do as an industry to start closing that gap? It's about time.
Yeah, I think some of it would be starting with some internships. Maybe people that are still in high school or whatever that looking for a summer job, kind of get their foot in a little bit, give them a taste of what's out there. You can kind of evaluate where they're at, and maybe after a couple summers, they think that, hey, this might be something that I want to pursue. When they can kind of see what the career path can be. Also, trying to partner with some vocational schools as well. People that are going there for certain trades. It's great to get that one trade, but it doesn't guarantee you a job. So if you're coming in like, hey, we like where you're at, we can utilize that trade and we can teach you some more. So I think really trying to partner, early on and try and catch them, from the ground, and, like we talked about before, really build them from the ground up. So you've kind of got that bench strength coming in.
One of the things that I reflect on a lot lately is legacy. When it's all said and done for you, how would you like to be remembered? What would you like your legacy to be?
I mean, I think for me, I would like to just think, anyone that worked with me, whether it be personally or professionally, that they were better for knowing me. We had fun working together, whether it was a lot of hard work or not, that they enjoyed their time with me. I think at the end of the day, for me, the more people that I can help advance in their career, it just means I'm doing my job. If I advance, that's great. But for me, the real joy is getting to see that the people that I work with, helping them take the next steps of where they want to go.
Jake, I want to give you the opportunity to share some final thoughts.
I mean, I think for me, it's, I'm really hoping that the industry and the staff shortage out there, with the NAA and everyone, I hope that there's some sort of forethought to start pursuing more internships across the industry. I think bring in some of these young people, really starting to make a bigger push towards partnering with colleges, junior colleges, maybe setting up a set career path within those. A lot of these colleges have stuff for HVAC or for welding, but there's not much out there until you get into the industry to train for maintenance. So really starting to push that, maybe to be some coursework out there, get these guys a taste that, draws them in. Even if you only get a handful of those people coming in, that's more than you've got now.
Jake, it's been great having you on. I really enjoy our conversation. I hope that we could have another conversation down the road.
Yeah,
Make a
absolutely. I appreciate
make,
it. Thank you.
make a part two. And everybody, thank you so much for watching us today. Another episode of Masters of Maintenance. I want to thank our sponsors from Kairos and Appwork for making this broadcast possible. And I hope to see you back here soon. Have an amazing day.